let's get into the third way that you can start building confidence with women when you have little experience. All right. Very, very important. Be around more women. All right. Now, I'm going to give a parallel analogy. Out here in Hollywood, I've been here for 14 years now doing a variety of video stuff. But I haven't been doing this show. I've done other various YouTube projects. I've also worked at a comedy club, and I've worked at a local newspaper, which I got last year. Now, what's interesting is this whole time, there's a part of me that's been wanting to like start a video business and do it for other people, but I wasn't getting those opportunities. And then this past year, I started working at a local newspaper, whereby they get invitations to various events, and me being on the production side, I get to go film some of these things. Well, it turns out that if you go to these events and you film them and celebrities are there, and then you go back to the office you work at and you edit the piece together and then you put it up on the website, the place that I works at sends that out to the people that we did the story on or whatever. And then they share, and they do one or two things. One, they share it with other people. And then two, they ask, hey, who's the camera guy that filmed this / edited it? And just in this past week alone, because I don't like to come on here and like talk about stuff I do outside of this stuff, but the number of high profile events that I filmed just in this last week alone, let alone just the month of March, because this is like award season out here, right? It has been astronomical, on top of the number of contacts I've made that want to now hire me for other things is astronomical. But how did that happen? And why is it that that's happening now within this last 10 months to a year, whereas I've been here 14 years and it wasn't really popping like that? Because I'm now regularly around areas and people whereby they can actually see that I'm out there. I'm able to demonstrate my product, i.e., my filming stuff, my editing stuff, and they're like, oh, he does a great job. Let's hire him and pay him the rates that he wants because I'm in the environment. And so this parallels back to women, because a lot of the time, like this guy said in this thing, he didn't really like get around a whole lot of women like that. So yeah, you can't become confident around people that you're never around. And if you're not allowing yourself to get around other women, then you're not going to ever be able to learn how to talk to them, what they're actually into, the experiences that they're looking for, what they actually want in a guy versus what you think women should want in a guy based on, YouTube rabbit holes. Like the best teacher of all that stuff outside of yours truly is going out into the world and actually meeting women. Now, as an introvert, I understand that could be a situation because you're like, Harry, I want to stay home. I want a woman to come up to my door and knock on it and say, hey, I think I'm the one for you, because going out there is scary and I don't want to have to do cold approaches and do all these things in bars and clubs. But not to worry, because there's other ways that you can be around more women. To start off with, regardless of what job you're doing, most jobs or entities at some point have some kind of networking event, and also hobbies too. Like think about like your Comic-Cons or, other various things where there's, Lord of the Rings meetups, and there's all these things where like you can meet up with other people. So networking events, taking classes. If you have certain hobbies that are popular, like I said, all the paintings that you see around my apartment, like the one that's over there, I did that at a paint night. I got news for you. At paint nights, it's more women than men. Like there's plenty of single women that go to paint nights because they want to get out of the house and they want to not be moping in their own sorrow. And also they're hoping maybe I'll see a guy there, and they're usually disappointed because they don't. But then if you're the guy that's there, now you have a common interest. Oh crap, you paint too? Hey, let me check on your painting. How do you think my painting looks? Like that's an easy way to get around women, where you're being able to use the environment and the activity going on to segue into a natural conversation, which can lead to exchanging information, So you got to put yourself in those environments. So yeah, I found networking events, classes, and hobbies of those things are really easy ways to get around more women. Another way is to, some of you guys are going to like this, is to get on dating apps. Now, obviously, if you're not great at the whole dating app thing, a lot of that boils down to your bio sucking, your picture sucking, and you're not knowing how to communicate. Again, I got programs for this kind of stuff at the website. You can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com and click on the products tab. But regardless, assuming once you figure that out, being able to swipe on a bunch of women and be able to get a few women into a conversation is a great way to start building confidence, because I found that a lot of the openers and then eventually closers that I would use on dating apps would be the same things that I could use in real life to get women. So I use dating apps more as a virtual simulator. Like I get to virtually try to work conversations to see, what openers got a good response, which ones didn't, what conversation topics allowed us to go further with conversations versus some that caused the conversation to die altogether. And it's a safer environment because the woman's not directly in front of you. So there's not too much of a hit back if you feel a rejection. It's like, oh, she ghosted. Oh, she unmatched me. Oh, that sucks. Okay, well, on to the next simulation. So I found it was easier for me to do it like that, right? Another thing, you need to start going to places where women have to talk to you. I looked back in my video archive. I did a video about the number one spot to be able to go to practice talking to women, and it was department stores. Like in department stores, women, they have all kinds of women there. And if you want to find something, you can talk to them and they have to talk back. So I shot an event the other night, and I got to the event and I had no memory cards. Like I left all my memory cards at home. So I had to go to Target twice because I didn't have a memory card and I didn't have like light battery. So I had to go. And both times I went to the store, there was this lady there, again, just average looking lady, but like I had to reach out to her and say, hey, can you open up this case to be able to get out this light and be able to get out a memory card for me? And both times it wasn't just like I went up there and said, hey, I need your help to like get a memory card. I was like legitimately having a conversation. Hey, I need this memory card. Oh, hey, how long have you worked here? Hey, so, tell me like, what do you like working here? Like, oh my God, I'm back again because I had to get something else. Oh, it's been a crazy night so far. How's your night been going? Like, you're just having people conversations with people that just happen to have boobs and nice hair. But when you go to department stores, you can really start to practice this and start to realize that just because the approach game habit is also important to get. Like some of you all have a problem just walking up to women and starting to talk, which is fine because I was never the best guy at cold approach, but I found that as I was practicing in like department stores or other various areas, that when we would have parties at my place back in the day and there are women there that I didn't know, I could at least approach them and say, hey, what's up? Are you having a good time at my apartment? Ha ha ha, at my party. Like it. So you want to run simulations. So department stores are great for that. Honestly, strip clubs, you got to pay for it, but you can literally go to a strip club and pay a stripper like $20 and you could get the dance. You could legitimately get the dance, but you could also just say, hey, I just want to talk to somebody for 20 minutes. And plenty of strippers out there will be like, yeah, I've heard so many stories of strippers saying like, dude came to the thing, just wanted to talk to somebody. So he'd pay me like $20-$40 and we just talk for like 5 or 10 minutes. But like in the strip clubs, ideally, it's like some of the hottest chicks out there. Your fear right now is you can't approach hot chicks, right? Fine. Go to a strip club, pay a chick that has to talk to you that's really, really hot, and you'll start to see that because she'll start asking you questions and they have to listen to you. So you can talk about whatever. They got to sit there and listen. But realistically, you'll start to be able to get a vibe for like, oh, approaching hot women isn't that bad of a thing. And by the way, sidebar, I've actually gone to strip clubs where like they weren't currently on the clock or it was like a low time in the day where they'll just come over to you and just start talking. I remember when I was in Atlanta, I felt bad because me and my friend went to the strip club and this girl, like she was dancing on the pole. Then she came down to the bar and we're just sitting there talking. And we talked for like 10 minutes. And again, inexperienced me, midway through that, like after 10 minutes, I was like, oh, hey, can I like pay you for a dance real quick? And she actually looked disappointed. Like she looked disappointed that I was going to now pay her to do some physical stuff with me versus just have a nice conversation. And at that point I was like, oh, so maybe we aren't always about the money. Oh my God. But the point is this, is that 10 minutes of free conversation. And I got to just kind of talk and chat and hear about her life and what she was trying to do outside of the strip club. Because I'm thinking, I'm not getting with the stripper, right? So I already know going in to talk to this woman, I'm not trying to land her, but I want to make it an interesting conversation. So you'll be able to start practicing having interesting conversations with a woman that's hot, that you think you have no chance with, but that'll help you for when you're in the real world and you meet a hot woman that you potentially do have a chance with, okay? So those are just a few examples of ideas where you can go talk to women to get practice, all right? Also to the point, make sure you have close friends, bring you around more women. If you're an introvert like I was, you probably have friends that are going to invite you to parties or dinners or whatever, and they're going to know some of the women in these areas where they're taking you that you don't know, all right? Have them do the introduction. Because I know, again, approaching can be hard, but you can have your friend be like, hey, so-and-so, this is Harry, this is so-and-so, like, and then they can big you up. Oh yeah, Harry's into this and that, and she's into this and that. Boom, go talk. Now your friends helped you introduce a topic of conversation that you two can converse on, and it'll make you less nervous about having to think up some random idea in your head of what to talk about. But also, you want to be practicing your talking skills and practicing talking about things that women are interested in. Again, if you need help with that, go to introvertdatingsuccess.com and sign up for a one-on-one coaching call. We can talk about that. All right. Lastly, very, very important. Okay. Because you want to be around more women. All right. And part of that is because you need to start racking up as many rejections as possible. Let me say that again, right? Right now, you have a fear of rejection because when it's not happening, the thought is if you get rejected, it's going to hurt a lot more based on how you're judging it in your head than it's going to actually hurt. Like a woman saying, no, thanks, I'm not interested. That idea for a guy is like a gut punch because it brings about rejection. It brings about like being humiliated. It brings about the idea that you're not desired by women. And I get all that, right? But you only need, hypothetically, one woman that likes you enough to want to date you, sleep with you, whatever, right? So rather than being afraid, you need to say, hey, I need to get around as many women as possible so I can start knocking down the list of rejections to eventually find that one. You know, if you ask out 20 women, inevitably at least one of those women is going to say yes. Like those are typically the odds I find, like usually more often than not, if you ask out 20 to 30 women, you're going to probably get at least one person to say yes. But if you're only around like 3 women and all 3 reject you, yeah, you're going to feel kind of bad because you're like, oh, all the girls always reject me. 3 girls rejected you. You have not asked out enough women. And I know people don't like to always hear that dating is a numbers game. I don't think that's effectively always true. I think that as you develop your skill, then you can better increase your odds of being able to ask a woman out and know that when you ask her out, you're going to get a yes. But for you guys that are just starting out, that are beginners, you need to be not afraid of rejection because you'll start to take rejection less personally. And then you'll have the confidence to know that you're still a great guy, even if the next 3 women you ask out say no, because they're not trying to insult you. You never know a reason behind why it is a woman's actually saying no. Like I've told stories on here about women that said no to me that I found out later ended up being lesbians and they were just going through their own journey. But I was taking it personal back then. So you have to be able to ask out enough women to start to get an idea of like, for one, you'll find out your rhythm of like how you best interact with women. You'll learn how to best approach them, how to best ask them for their phone numbers and what processes that are going to feel most natural to you to be able to try to ask them out. But you can't get to any of those steps if you're not around enough women for that to happen. And in order to do that, part of you has to stop being afraid of rejection. So I make it a game of, instead of hiding from rejection, I'm going to run headfirst into it. I'm going to go ask out women, and I'm going to try different ways to ask them out. I'm going to try some silly stuff, some serious stuff. And hopefully in the midst of doing all this, I'll get one to say yes. But I'm fully expecting the next 5 women I ask out are going to say no. Let's go have fun with getting those no's. And I find doing that, you actually might get some yeses that you didn't expect.
You need to call her on her cell phone when you want to